So next week, we're going to jump into a brand new series called Advent, but we want to pause this weekend. And here's why: is one of the opportunities that myself and the staff have that, quite frankly, the privilege of it isn't lost on us, I hope, and I hope it never is that we're often getting to hear so many of your stories. And one of the things that I love about community like this is not only the chance that we get to serve one another and serve people and serve the community, is the way in which, though, we're able to exist in this faith journey, and hopefully in a way that allows us to respect our differences and yet at the same time celebrate God in all of them. And what stands out to me is one of the dangers of something like this is if we're not careful, we project an image that says, here's what the experience is supposed to look like for you, and if it doesn't, it's disingenuous and you're doing it wrong. And obviously there's this very fine line between honoring truth and honoring God and honoring grace and honoring the fact that God does show up in some predictable ways, and at the same time honoring that we all follow Jesus for oftentimes very different reasons. So this morning what we're going to do is I'm going to pull up three friends, three people from among this community, and I wish we had 200 spots. We'd pull all of you up here, and maybe if you're here long enough, we'll pull you up here too in the coming years. But this will be the second year in a row where we took this weekend to pull three other people up to the stage, and we're going to do different people both gathering in order to really ask this question of, why do you follow Jesus? And my hope is that there's some connection for you that happens, there's some challenge for you that happens. And here's the thing that stood out to me, and I just, maybe I invite you, we could say it this way, just invite you to kind of see God in this. What stood out to me in just the preliminary conversations with these guys and then the other three that'll be at the 10:30 was this reminder that we all work pretty hard at this thing called faith. That if you've been around in this atmosphere for any number of years, faith is work. Working to believe, working to continue to believe in the midst of certain circumstances. It's a lot of worthwhile work. And so I'm going to invite to the stage Marla Gates, Connie Gates, and Greg Ross. So will you guys come on up here? And we also brought our camp chairs to try to make it a little bit more chill. So it's a little bit more of a chill weekend. I think this is Connie's, because she kills a lot of elk. So this is Marla. Marla, of course, is on staff and leads all things tech team and technology. Connie and Greg. So we'll try to create somewhat of a semicircle. Looks like, yeah, there we go. You're right there. Okay.
I should wear my sunglasses.
So thank you guys for jumping in and the vulnerability of this. I realize as you share your life stories, kind of from a stage with lots of people watching you. How's the chair?
Fine.
Okay.
I noticed as I
you're
was
leaning
sitting
back
up
like
front,
you're
all the
doing
duct
that trust
tape.
challenge thing. Like.
Definitely from the Gates household.
So why don't we just start, just so that these guys can get to know you, because obviously some of them know you better than others. Just share in a few minutes your own faith journey. Like, just let us know what that looked like for you. Were you raised in the church? What was your spiritual background? And what that's looked like in the last decades. Who wants to start?
I'll go ahead. Well, I was raised in a home where we went to church, but we went to a church early on in my life where, you sang the songs, you went to church on Sunday, and you knew John 3:16. And that was a valuable part of my life, and I'm grateful for it, but it wasn't until I was in high school, which, as you can tell, was probably a long, long time ago. I attended Young Life, and it was at Young Life in Bozeman that I learned that Christianity was a relationship with Jesus. And that was the beginning of a long journey. When you're young, you think, well, you accept Jesus, it's over and done, you're going to be happy all the rest of your life, and you'll grow and learn and that kind of stuff. And of course, that didn't work. I married young, and it was fun there for that first year, right, Dave? But we both learned that in order for our marriage to survive, we needed more. And that was what led us back to the church, to a church in Bozeman, and to people who discipled us and led us closer to the Lord, in that we needed to establish a relationship. And we're like all of you, many things happen in your life, the deaths, all the things that happen to you, but that's basically what's led us to follow Jesus.
David, I heard you say David led you to follow Jesus. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I need to, right? No,
I'm just kidding.
it's just, and I guess I was thinking this morning, I was telling Adam I had to get up early because I can talk to people, but not at church. What really is it that makes me follow Jesus? First of all, it is that relationship. But before that, I know that God is everywhere. I knew that always. I could see it in flowers and trees and mountains and streams and things like that. And to be in touch with that God who created us and allowed us to live and then loved us so much that he gave us his son so that we could have a relationship with him. So I guess that's it in a nutshell anyway.
Yeah. Great. Marla?
Are we going in order?
Yeah, so maybe we should probably give them the relationship here because we got 2 last name Gates.
Yeah, so Connie is my husband, Bob is his aunt. So, yeah.
There you go. Okay.
So, so for me, I grew up in the church for the most part. Came to know the Lord at a young age, like, I don't know, it was like 9 or 11 or something, just through like a neighborhood. I went to Sunday school, there was that factor, but went to, I think it was called a Good News Club. I don't remember for sure. But, was very excited, and it was just kind of a, this is what you should believe type thing. And as I grew, I kind of was my own, kind of went through a little wild stage, didn't have a strong foundation. We went to church, but it wasn't like a, just a consuming part of our lives. And then we kind of, when I was in high school, it was pretty, we didn't go to church very much, and so I just kind of went my own way. And then I would have to say that it really took leaving home. My husband was a military guy. We were Air Force, and so his first station was in Great Falls, so we got to stay home for a while, but then had to move, and that's when I really started, I guess, some introspection. Who am I following? Who am I accountable to? What is my life saying to others? And that's when I started going, okay, and so then just was kind of this choice then to start, following Jesus a little more closely and getting away from myself more. And so then it's just been a journey ever since, and I can't say it's, like you said, it's not a choice and everything's rosy from there on out. It's a process, and I have to say that the older I get, the less I feel like I know. So, yeah, and overall, I would say why I follow Jesus is because I'm truly pathetic on my own. So
before we jump to Greg, I just want to ask this. You said that the older I get, the less I know. Is that a comforting thing, or is that an anxiety-filled thing?
It's both. I guess I just feel like with so many aspects of life, with parenting, with everything, you get to this point where you're going along and you're thinking, I got this figured out. And then boom, something happens and it's like, whoa, that's not working anymore. And I guess, I don't know, I guess I would say that it's kind of both, because it's just kind of a, as I get older, I'm just realizing the less control that I have and the less that I need to have. So in a way, that's comforting because I can let go more. But at the same time, it's like, man, you're looking around, you're going, well, look at that experience they're having. Why am I not having that? So I have to be very careful about not doing the comparison thing. Yeah, so I guess it kind of goes both ways.
So glad to know that we both relate on the control thing.
Yeah.
Greg?
Yeah. Well, when first asked, and to your point about the maybe the anxiety piece of it, but when we're asked to speak, why do I choose to follow Jesus? The question that popped into my head was, if you weren't in church with me, is that something that somebody would ever ask me? So I was like, it was a kind of a gut check. Like, do other people, would they recognize that? Would they see that? So it's been a good exercise. So I challenge you to ask yourself that question. But yeah, it's like, do people see that? Would they be curious about that? I grew up in East Texas in a Southern Baptist church. We were there all the time, and it wasn't any lead role or anything, but if the doors were open, we were there most of the time, it felt like. And for me, it was opportunity to go hang out with my friends. That's just, my group was there, and so that's where I wanted to be, to hang out with those people. And so it was just getting saturated in the word there, many people loving Christ and then loving on us as a family and my friend group. Had I don't know, maybe it's unique, maybe not, but I got baptized twice because in middle school, or maybe it was late elementary school, all of my friends were getting baptized, and I was like, they get to get up in front of the church and do all this stuff. I should do that. I'm getting left out. Am I missing something? And then in about high school, it really became my own decision, something that I realized what I was committing to and choosing to do. And so I chose, and as in the Baptist church, it's a believer's baptism, so I felt like I had gotten baptized on the wrong side of believing, so I needed to do it again.
We can baptize here again this afternoon if you want.
Yeah, go for the record. And so that was a big deal. But growing up there and then going to a Baptist university, not really getting outside of my zone, my lane at all until moving away after college, I was able to live in a place where I got to be ignorant and think that everybody thought the same way I did. Maybe I chose not to expand that vision, but it wasn't until moving up out of state, so Colorado, Wyoming, getting to Montana, realizing that there's a lot of people who would challenge the stuff that I believed or that I said, and it wasn't then that I had to start trying to figure out, do I put weight behind what I believe, rather than I'm just doing this because it's what you do when you grow up in East Texas in the South. And I know that there's plenty of people who would push back on that from down there, but that was the experience that I had.
They would push back on what?
That everybody down there just grows up in a faith-filled relationship or lifestyle. I know that that's not true for everybody, but it sure felt that way.
Okay.
From my perspective. And so then coming up here, it just became an opportunity to reflect and dive in and really learn what I believe for me, and not just because it's what you do, but trying to research and learn and get more educated on what I believe.
So all of you then were in your 20s when faith started, for lack of a better phrase, became your own? Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
So I don't know you're not a parent yet, but you're a mentor to many of us who have kids. So
I'm sorry, kids.
Whatever. I want to dive into that because we do youth group, we do kids ministry, we do all these things to pour and invest in kids, and even as parents, we do all these things to protect our kids. I wonder if you could speak to your experience, and I think this comes up in all of your stories, but I'm going to pick on you initially, Marla, because you talk about you had your wild, I don't know what you call your wild season, your rebellious season, and yet it sure seems like that what you're saying is that's been a vital part of who you are today. And yet then as a parent, obviously, we want to protect from our kids having those experiences. So how, as you think about the role that your pain has had in your faith, how do we parent with that in mind? Veteran, almost veteran, rookie. But you lead young people in your job all the time.
Sure.
So is that making any sense?
Well, it does. I just want to say one thing. I was thinking about this after our conversation and other conversations I've had with you and all sorts of other relatives and things about raising kids. You And you talk about your wild times and you're worried about your kids doing the same things. Of course you want to worry about that and you're concerned about that. But the thing to remember, and in our own family too, when I think about our youngest in particular, who just walked out the door on his way back home, yeah, you don't want your kids to do those things. You don't want them to end up in jail, or you don't want them drinking or getting in an accident or those kind of things. But you did those things. And look what you ended up like. I mean, I admire both of you. I admire my children. So my advice is kind of, you got to chill out a little bit. And you got to trust that God's going to help you through this and that he loves those kids of yours. And he's going to take care of them. There you go. Done.
Have a good weekend. No, it's helpful. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, you're great.
Anybody have anything to add to that?
I would just say it's a really fine line. It's hard because when you become a parent, everything in your being is to protect that child. So it's really hard, and I just it's just the journey that God has us all on, and the things that I learned through parenting with my relationship with God is like, oh yeah. So there's value in it, but it is a fine line, and I do think that those experiences are absolutely valuable. I think it's definitely there's different personalities, and that all comes into play. And you think you have one kid figured out, and you think you got it, and you're like, woof, and then you're like, oh no, because they're all so different. But I think that there are some people who thrive in that. They have to learn on their own, and that's how they become the people that God wants them to be. And but I also think that there's those personalities that they're steadfast, and they just have an inner wisdom or something, and they don't necessarily need that, and they're going to be just as great of adults and people, and they get to not go through a lot of the consequences, which is a great thing. So I think it's both sides. I think that those experiences are huge and valuable, but not everybody needs to go through them too.
So I'm going to return to you on this on a newlywed basis. Mm-hmm. How do you best experience Jesus in parenting? Like, how has parenting changed the way you connect with God? Assuming that we experience God different in different seasons.
Well, I think you understand his perspective better. Your comment saying that you do everything to protect that child. That's what he does for us too, and we turn our back on him and we walk away. And the pain that you experience when your children have pain, imagine what that is like for our Lord. And then goes the other thing. They're out there doing their wild, crazy stuff, and you don't know what it is. Oh my gosh, you learn how to pray, and you pray a lot.
Yeah.
And then you learn more about prayer, and you pray some more. So that is certainly, and that's, it couldn't be more valuable than that, learning how to pray and talk to God and express your concern and your desire, and turning it over to him, because you don't have a choice.
Yeah, it's just a stark reminder of our lack of control. And I think that's huge. I think the thing that has really stuck out to me is just the relationship. We, as our kids get older, I have girls, so they like to be in their rooms with their doors closed, and how you long for that relationship. And so you have to be very intentional about, you try to talk to them and keep that relationship going. And I think, how pathetic am I, in my efforts to keep my relationship going with God, and how does that affect him? How does that hurt him? I think that's something that's really stood out to me. Yeah, and I'm just reminded, just my attitude, the whole free will that comes into play. You think about the free will, and God gives us free will and lets us stub our toes, and your kids have free will, and you can You can teach, you can pour into them, you can do all you can to try to guide them on the right path, keep them safe, and but that whole free will thing is just a great picture of the free will that God gives us, and the choices that we make and the consequences because of those. It's very, it's very apparent with with parenting.
Is there free will in East Texas?
There's free will when you're talking about learning how to pray, or kids teaching you how to pray. I just remembered Mom being very full of anxiety and times when I would show up late and just, rolling in a half hour. Let's say it was 11 o'clock. I get home at 11:30 and just sitting on the driveway, just waiting. Just like, oh, man. So I don't know if there's free will, but there's guilt.
True.
How has marriage changed the way how long have you been married now?
On the spot.
Yeah.
January this year.
Okay.
So,
fair enough.
yeah, 11 months.
How has marriage changed the way you relate to God?
I think it's, and it's something I prayed for and something I requested. I don't get to be in charge of myself anymore as its own end. I have to consider others, consider Betsy more specifically. I have to be more deliberate about my time, about my attention, about my energies. And that's not to say that I'm doing that well, but it's forced me to have to, as I mentioned earlier, expand my vision, look outside myself. Because up till then, the 30-something years, I got to do that. I got to just be considerate of myself, and when others came into the picture, okay, I'll think about that too. But now it's much more of a reliance to have to ask for help to do that, because call it habit, but it's more of a rut. It's so easy to just stay in that lane and think about myself. So the connection has had to be asking for more energy, more attention, more decision-making ability to help guide that well, rather than just sitting in my own, in my own head.
Fair enough. All of you have used this word prayer, and yet talk about things where we all come at faith from a different angle. I wonder if you could each speak to when you say prayer, what is prayer for you? What does that look like? Because it's one of those words we throw around, right? And very sincerely, but to assume that it's the same experience for all of us, I'm guessing, would be a little dangerous.
It's so different for me depending on the season that I'm in. So prior, I guess this is part of the previous question. Prior to being married, I had a lot of discretionary time, I'll call it, and a lot of my prayer would come in the form of journaling, writing out my thoughts and just being very open in that way, and just laying out, here's the struggles, here's the requests, here's the places I want to grow. And it's less so, it's not that at all anymore. I don't remember the last time I journaled. And I could look at that as a loss, but I'm also getting to have conversations now. I'm getting to have that dialogue instead of writing it down. So just, corporate worship and prayer is a bigger deal. Being able to, a lot of the prayer comes from being around friends who are struggling with things and or encouraging me through things. So it's certainly different depending on the season. One of the prayers that I wish I had more of was just celebratory praise, just giving that out there. I'm cynical on a lot of levels, and so just the ability to put myself out there and be really excited over something feels too vulnerable sometimes, and I need to get over that. I ask for help. So the prayer is, let me get over myself, because I'm as great as I think I am. I'm really not. So that's
You're pretty great.
We'll take a poll later.
Huh.
Sorry.
Well, for me, it's a quiet time in the morning, and over the course of the years, it's changed. There's been times when I've been a big journaler too, and written everything down, or prayer requests and then what I thought I was hearing from God and that kind of thing. And I don't do that currently now either. But it's a time alone with God. And that sounds so holy. That don't ever go there with me. When you try to calm yourself and hear and feel the power of Jesus. And of course, I don't do very well with that. So for me, it's that time in the morning, and I have a verse that has been going through my mind over and over out of Ephesians. Strengthen me with power through your spirit in my inner being, so that Christ may dwell in my heart through faith. And then it goes on, to talk about the power of love and to give us comprehension of what that is. And that's just been guiding me for years, and I think it will be guiding me more because it's so and that's it. It's the power of God and love. And can you define it? Can you fully understand it? Maybe not in this life. So it's just, I wouldn't say that it's a struggle, but it's certainly not a straight journey in my quiet time of, I've never gotten to the point where I thought, I'm doing good. It's like, holy guacamole,
So
this is like crazy.
When you say you wouldn't say it's not a struggle, are you referring to just, what exactly are you referring to when you say that? What's not a struggle?
I'm just saying that
Or what is a struggle?
it's a journey. It's a place you're never going to get to. We're working to understand who God is and what he's done for us. And I guess I do struggle sometimes, but it's kind of like, but so what am I going to do? I just have to keep moving on. Another step, another step, another step. Not, I'm going backwards. Of course, I'll say that, and then I'll go backwards.
Sure.
I don't know. I just don't think struggle's the word for it.
Okay. That's fair.
Maybe it's like working out.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? So
I
you're
don't,
getting
but those are
better,
some funny
and
gestures.
sometimes you don't do it well. And
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't know what she means.
So are you saying that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to put words in your mouth and then you tell me if they're accurate, because I'm not a good interviewer. Is the struggle you're referring to the experience of the presence of God in that prayer time? Or are you talking about life outside of that prayer time?
life outside.
Okay. But for you, prayer is on your knees, I'm just kidding. It's your cup of coffee.
I'm old. I can't do anything. Come on.
Yeah, well, so you referenced in the morning.
Yeah.
What does that look like in the morning?
It means my cup of coffee and my iPad with it on Bible Gateway.
Okay.
I try not to go to the
Sitting in your chair.
Yeah.
You try to beat David up. Not
Yes.
beat him up. I mean, like, get up before he does.
Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
And I try to beat the dog up too.
All right. Okay. Marla, you've also used the word prayer. What is prayer? What does that look like for you? I mean, like the when and the where and the how.
So I would love to say that I get up at the crack of dawn and pray every morning, but I don't. I have my mornings where I don't, like if I'm not going into work or I just have a more mellow morning, and I usually do try to do some focused prayer on those days. It's a cup of coffee. It's definitely a comfort thing, but it's I think more for me the dialogue throughout the day. It's the crying out like, oh, I need help with this, or thank you for that, or I think that is in this busy season of my life and distractions and stuff. I could say that that's probably more like big and invaluable in my life right now. But yeah, I definitely can't. I love that quiet time on those days that I can take that time. And then I usually, this isn't with prayer, but I usually have some sort of a book, some sort of something that is helping me expand my vision, open my mind, or grow in my faith somehow. I usually have that going, and I usually try to read that at night as well as the Bible. So yeah, I wish I could say that I was more dedicated in that area, and I'm not a morning person.
I think the way you said it over coffee was, I like my sleep.
I do. It's really sad.
Fair enough. Yeah. So it's not journaling for you, and it sounds like, which I thought was a really fascinating observation, that for you, some of your prayer is your conversation.
Yeah. And I do also have some days when I get to have coffee in the morning and sit and reflect, and other days I just hit the ground running. But more often than not, it's making time when I can get it. Like I commute to Bozeman once a week on Wednesdays, so I get some car time. So maybe the radio's not on, the podcast is off some of those times. Trying to be deliberate about it before going to bed. And I wish I was better when I wake up, because that's when I feel like it would frame my day better if I could open in that mindset, and maybe I just need to start getting up earlier. But it's conversations throughout the day or in my head. Yeah, just getting there. Luckily, I got some good friend groups that there's a lot of encouragement and support through texts and reminders that just put you in a spot. I've got a coworker who's got a little reminder that'll pop up on his screen like at a certain time of day, and it's like, remember to pray. And he just takes 2 minutes and prays.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's really smart. But just the things that put it in front of you to remember to do, make it a routine, I find really valuable, because I thrive with routine, and then when I get thrown off of that, it spirals for a while, and you find it again.
You mentioned at the beginning that when first asked the question, why do you follow Jesus, that created a lot of internal dialogue and analysis. What did you discover about yourself? What stood out to you in that process?
Too many compromises stood out, actually. I wouldn't say I landed on a happy place with my answer, but I didn't beat myself up over it. But I remember some conversations when I initially started in my field work, and being very forward about it, coming up from a culture where I felt very comfortable talking about that in a safe place, and now my work brings people from all over the country out here for a season, and just so many backgrounds and diverse experiences that I recognize the compromise of, like, I'm a little more quiet about that type of thing. And so it's convicting, for sure. I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
No, I wasn't looking for anything, just that that's interesting. So, Connie, if you were looking at 20-year-old you, and you were able to tell 20-year-old you why, after these different seasons of life, raising kids, health, all those different things, why you're still following Jesus today, what do you wish 20-year-old you maybe knew that you've now learned? Maybe that's a horrible question and we should hit reset, but...
It's a journey. And I said that earlier too. Because I hear some of myself in you too when you compare yourself to others. And I've done a lot of that over the course of my life because, well, not just because, but I'm the kind of person who, like, if there's a class, I want an A. That's just the way it is. So, you see all these good Christian people, they didn't do that. That's not what this is about. And if it is what that's about, and I've been in places, where the rules were so tight, or the definition of Christianity and life with Jesus was so defined that it was either this or this. And there was a time in my life when I believed that, because these people whom I admired so much had those kind of opinions. I'd want to say it's a journey. You have to hang in there, keep working at it, and learning more and developing more of a relationship. It's not you do or you don't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. You were nodding. What were you connecting with there?
The conversation I was having in my head. I was like, yeah, you are right. I was trying to answer the question of what would I tell my 20-year-old self. And basically, it's not about you. And just stepping back from thinking thinking that you've got to have things right to move forward. So those are the things that I would push on my 20-year-old self. Like, you're not going to get to the point where, and you were saying this earlier, to where it's like you can hit cruise control and just feel good about, here's what the process is, because you're going to hit a snag, something's going to change, and to just be comfortable with that, and rather not think you have to get to that place of perfection or achievement to be able to then move forward or look outward, serve others, be something for somebody else. Like, just start that stuff. Don't feel like you've got to get yourself in the best spot to do that.
Wow.
That's it.
What would you say to?
I think that probably the most important thing that one of the most important things that I've learned is that your faith can't be based on your feelings, because you think, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, everything should be great, I should be feeling great, and there are times when I'm not feeling it, So does that mean that I'm not true to what I believe, So I just have to be, very careful about not letting the feelings, dictate my faith. And then it's not about me. That's huge. It's not, so not about me.
You're not going to get the A.
I may not get the A, but darn it, I'm going to try.
A.
Well, thank you guys. I'm going to pray, and I think we're going to sing our way out of here, but thank you so much for your candor, and boy, I sure hope that this in some ways just models a way of conversating and connecting, and hopefully this frees you up a little bit in your own journey, as Connie so eloquently put it. Let me pray. God, thank you for the astounding nature of your being with us, that it's both personal and universal. Jesus, we recognize that there's lots and lots of things that contribute to our unique stories and opportunities and advantages and disadvantages. And God, pray that we would nestle up next to grace and respond to the next right thing that you're calling us to do. We love you, God. Thanks for your role in these guys' stories. Amen.
If you would like to engage further with Narrate Church, you can find contact information online, www.narratechurch.org. We would love to hear from you.